Truck drivers of Reddit, what is your most NSFW story from the road? Not a driver, but dispatch. One of the craziest stories we had was that there was a driver driving in the middle of the night and an owl went straight through the windshield. It ended up getting stuck in his chest. He was able to pull over and turn on his hazards. His body was found outside of the truck, which looked like he tried putting the emergency cones out. Did I read that right? An owl killed someone through a windshield? That has to be pretty rare, right? One time, I was driving myself and a friend through a curvy forest road in SoCal. He had the window rolled all the way down, elbow out the window, having a casual conversation or listening to music. Don't quite remember. Doing about 45 through the turns, when all of a sudden a huge owl comes from about 2 o'clock position and smacks the windshield right in front of him. If I had been going a bit faster, he would have taken that owl to the face and had a Fabio moment on steroids. About 20 years ago I was heading down Snowshoe on I-80 in Pennsylvania. Flatbed passed me, and after he got about a 1/4 mile in front of me the brake lights came on, and he started swerving all over. Ended up in the median. Upright but jackknifed into the driver's side. Turns out he hit a bear, which went through the windshield. Bear survived it and went on attack mode. I and 2 other drivers got to him in time to see this bear flipping out inside the cab attacking the guy. Right behind us was a state trooper. He ran up to the truck, yanked the passenger door open and shot the bear twice. Bear turned around and started towards him, and he unloaded into it. That guy was tore the duck up, and no, he didn't make it. What the duck are the odds? Not a truck driver, but the officer who responded to a semi-VS passenger vehicle arrived on scene to a frantic scene. Multiple people are yelling and crying. I try to make sense of things and ask if anyone is injured. I hear the voice of a parent yelling out. If you have ever heard someone in person yelling for help with the fear and panic, you'll never see things the same way again. Medics arrive about the time I show up. They start to treat the lady who obviously has a broken leg. I start to make sense of things and get the driver of the semi. I ask if he needs medical, he says no. I go to the vehicles to get ID for the lady who is being combative and not cooperating. I get up to the vehicle where I'm looking for a purse. I look in the crumpled from behind car this lady was in. I see a laptop on the floorboard from what I can make out. Hear sounds of Blue's Clues playing but Joe video. I move the laptop and was not prepared for what I saw next. The top of the laptop was covered in brain matter and blood. An infant was on the floorboard folded up and mangled. Skull obviously crushed. No car seat. Baby was around 2 years old. Placed either back seat with a laptop on their lap. The force from being hit from behind sent the baby into the driver's seat and laptop screen smashed the child's skull. I have 100% written child restraint law citations since then. Been a firefighter 15 years. The worst fatal accidents always involve children. I hate seeing a kid's car seat as I approach a car. Even when they are empty, the fear of ejection gets me. But I never had a car seat as a kid and I grew up fine. Fuck survivorship bias. You never meet the ones that didn't, and are the reason we have standards. I had just started working for a large corporate company. There was extra money to be made if your first truck a recovery truck. Someone quits and just leaves a truck somewhere. You get a ride with another driver and pick it up. This truck happened to be on the US/Canada line. At the inspection station, I see the truck sitting there with this crate strapped to the back on the 5th wheel. It's maybe 4x6x3, which is odd. I go into the custom station, tell them I'm here to get the truck, and show them my paperwork. The guy at the desk give me this "you poor fool" look and says I hope you have a strong stomach. Gives me the keys. I go to the truck and open the door. The smell of shit and other human body odors just about knocks me on my ass. This truck is a wreck inside. There's a pile of shit about 2 feet high against the side of sleeper. The mattress is just soaked with piss. One of cabinets was filled with shit. Turns out the last driver was busted when he tried to cross the border with the truck. Got stopped for an inspection. Needless to say, the smell tipped off the inspectors. The better things to list is they found 2 naked women tied up in the sleeper. A loaded 38 special trafficable amounts of cocaine. Needless to say, he was locked up. The crate On the back of the truck was all his personal effect they were not keeping as evidence. I did not drive that truck back. I have no clue what they did with it. TLDR, tired to recover a truck for some extra cash. Turned out to be filled with human shit and piss, and was being used to traffic humans and drugs. This is the most ducked up one for me, yet this guy wins. Well, maybe wins isn't the term I'm looking for. Not a truck driver, but my dad was. Since he was a long haul trucker we would go with him during summer break. So one late night in the plains of Oklahoma on a very straight and very long run in the distance we could see tail lights switching back and forth, over and over again. We finally managed to catch up, and Dad comes across the CB asking if we could pass. A lady comes over and says that we could. Well, apparently there was 3 trucks total. We passed the first truck, and it was complete dark in the cab. We passed the second truck. Same thing. Complete darkness. We go to pass the lead truck and it's a woman driver with her titties out and playing with toys. I'm around 13 to 14 at the time. So needless to say I was happy. Well, the lady came back over the CB and asked if we enjoyed the show and wanted to know if we wanted to slow down for another view. Politely my dad said we enjoyed it but was behind. Apparently the 2 trucks in the back were taking turns swapping lanes to get a view. Man, I get so uncomfortable and embarrassed just during an overly racy scene in a movie with my parents. I couldn't imagine the awkwardness of this situation. Now it was just me and dad. Kinda like him giving me my first beer. He used that as an opportunity to give me the talk so it wasn't weird at all. Used to assist in liability claims for trucking companies. What a nightmare. Best NSFW stories involved the multiple times truckers ended up in the back of their trucks trying to score with a lovely lady, who then proceeded to rob them blind and or steal the cab. We had 2 calls in 1 month involving truckers in Texas, where the drivers were found naked in the back of their trucks with no wallets or ID at all. Police were calling us to identify them and figure out how to get them back on the road. One guy lost a full load from Circuit City because he thought it was his lucky day. Didn't matter how many times we warned the drivers or told the stories. SFW was the guy who stopped off at home en route to deliver a load. Found his wife with her boyfriend getting cozy. He walked back to the truck, put it in gear, and parked it in their living room. No one died, but try to explain to your insurance carrier how this was an accident. Apostrophe. Parked it in their living room. Amazing phrase. My father-in-law's dad, grandfather-in-law, was driving through a pretty sketch part of New York in the 70s. He was in Vietnam, and not the nicest human. I guess there was an area known for truckers getting robbed due to slow-moving traffic. Just cut your lines and take your shit. He was driving through this area and a dude just hopped up on the steps of his cab. So since he was holding his .45, presumably for this reason, shot the dude point blank in the chest and just kept going. Somehow nothing came of it. Pretty insane in my opinion. New York in the 70s sounds like a Mad Maximum movie. New York was really bad in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, getting worse as time went on. It was not a tourist place like it is now. There was no legitimate reason to be in Times Square. I remember seeing hookers walking the street near the on-ramp to the FDR Drive in the middle of the day as a kid in the 80s. No one paying them any mind except for the guys picking them up for $10 blowjobs. The place was ducked up. Watched a couple solicit a lizard have a threesome in the truck. Didn't see that part, but we know when the truck is rockin', and pay her, hug her, and send her on her way. What's a lizard? A lot lizard. Basically a truck stop hooker. A few times I've seen someone receiving roadhead, and once I had a convertible of college-aged girls flash me their tits. But the funniest was a guy driving down the road with his topless girlfriend or wife. He was just holding a boob. He wasn't rubbing it, and they weren't doing anything else. He was just driving down the road holding a massive titty. Maybe it was a comfort thing, or just the tamest weird kink ever. Security blanket? Nah, security boob. My dad's been a truck driver for over 30 years and his story he tells all the time is before the age of cell phones. He was running in the middle of the night and came up on a flipped vehicle. About that time a state trooper pulled up. The trooper and him followed bloody footprints through the desert trying to find the driver. They never found anyone. Another time it was a similar situation, but it was a extended van with a group of people and children. He had to help find the bodies in the dark that had been scattered from the van flipping. This sounds like a tragedy years ago in Vegas regarding a family and multiple deaths due to a car accident with police on the highway. As a first responder, this happens more than I'd like to admit. Seriously people, buckle up, and if your vehicle only has 5 seat belts, only have 5 people in the car! Exclamation mark. Exclamation mark. I'm a little late to this party, but this is a pretty interesting story. My mom was a truck driver for a little bit when I was just out of high school. I took a trip with her from Texas to Louisiana. Stopped at a truck stop outside Baton Rouge. We got approached by a prostitute. My mom said she wasn't interested because she wasn't gay. The prostitute said, I'm both male and female. I have a vagina and penis. My mom, being the curious sort she is, asked how that was possible. They said I'm a real hermaphrodite. I was born with a working vagina and penis. My mom said she would give them $10 to see. They agreed. This person had a vaginal opening, testicles, and working penis. We ended up talking with them for about 30 minutes about hermaphroditism. It was pretty interesting conversation. My dad's a truck driver. Called me really upset one morning about 7 years ago, saying a girl my age, I was 16 then, was knocking on his window about 5:10 am. Barefoot and obviously high. She had little to no teeth and didn't seem to have bathed in weeks. She was begging my dad to let her perform sexual services on him in exchange for like $10 US or something. It made him so upset that he bought her a hot chocolate and a sandwich. Gave her his blanket from his truck and $50 and really hoped she wouldn't use it for drugs. I guess he thought of me when he saw her. I don't know. Really shook him. She went to the moon with those $50. That's really ducked up, but you're probably right. Didn't drive, but worked in safety for a large OTR company. Our releg system had a camera option, so drivers could take pictures during pre-trips or if they were involved in accidents. Had a driver quit, and when we were getting the truck ready for someone else, we discovered he had made the home screen of his LG tablet a naked picture of someone he had in his truck. It was terrible. The worst part was we could not figure out how to change it back. OMG, that's hilarious. Honestly though, being a driver, I would much rather duck in the truck on the dock than anywhere else. The shaking of the truck when the forklift goes on and off adds another level of excitement. WTF mayo. Watched a woman driving snort white powder off of a CD case with a kid in a car seat in the back. Tennessee. I recall rolling a joint in the passenger side of my friend's car. We overtook a truck and I looked up to see the driver smile at what I was doing. King-sized drizzlers back in the day were for truck drivers to roll long ciggies with. You can really see everything in a car from the driver's seat of a semi-truck. And there are so many things going on the road. I love seeing people rolling or smoking weed. Endangering children while doing hard drugs was a call to the police though. Reported her license number. Wilder given you guys a honk and wave. My dad worked for a moving company and drove the big trucks across the country to wherever the person was moving to. Well, one time he was stopped at a red light and his moving partner hits his arm and says for him to look at something. He looks and this chick who was parked next to them at the red light had her legs propped up on the dash and was just rubbing her bag like a DJ who drank 20 Red Bulls. Once the light turned yellow for the other light, she just put her legs back down and drove off. As soon as their light turned green, they were high up in a big ass truck, so they saw everything. Glitter hero. I'm technically not a truck driver, but I work for a company who does a lot of trucking. Last month we had a driver killed on the road because someone blew a red light. He swerved to miss them and rolled the truck, crushing him. Doesn't get much more horrific than that. Edit, Mr. Word. A truck driver's wife worst nightmare, and his 2 kids. He was one of my favorite coworkers. Sad shit. Not exactly NSFW. Not horrific but hilarious. My dad was a long haul driver and was stopped for the night pretty close to where we live. My mom of course had gone to see him, so they had dinner, go back to the crowded parking lot, bumped uglies and probably conceived my brother. When my mom was going to leave, my dad waited until after she got out of the truck, to hand her some money, making her look like a girl he picked up somewhere. Lots of me next. Coming from across the way. It's my favorite story and I probably told it more than they did. Edit, my most upvoted comment. Thanks guys. Nobody asked, but even though they're weirdos, I'm really proud of them. My parents. Link. imga.com/hubwonbo. That is hilarious. Driving northbound I-15 through Cajun Pass, I saw a really nice classic boot parked on the side of the freeway with its hazards on. Looked to have broke down. Upon closer inspection, an older woman had stopped, dropped her pants, hit the hazards, and was dropping a massive juice with her ass hanging out of the driver window. Different story. At the Flying J in Ehrenberg, I stopped for fuel and jerky. While I was walking in, I noticed a driver yelling at a recreational reptile to leave him alone and let him sleep, and this was the last time he was gonna tell her. So I did my shopping, and on my way back to start fueling I noticed the driver from earlier taking off from his spot and driving towards the lot lizard. I was thinking, ducking great, I'm about to witness a murder and have to deal with taking statements and shit. Nope. Dude got his truck up to about 15 miles per hour, rolled the window down, and whipped a jug of something I'm gonna guess wasn't lemonade at her and drilled her center mass. So this soaked lot lizard goes sprinting into the travel center, and about 5 seconds later people started pouring out the front doors like the place was on fire. By the time I was done fueling, the cops had came and were tossing her in their cruiser while taking turns dry heaving. Best part is I was about 50 yards upwind of all this. Please click subscribe if you enjoyed this video.